All right, first story of the New York Post. Alex Jones ordered to pay $45.2 million in punitive damages to Sandy Hook parents. Let's get some important context here real quick, though. This is from AboveTheLaw.com. Texas damages cap looms over Alex Jones' Sandy Hook defamation case. They basically lay it out. The family wants $150 million. They've awarded $45, but this is where it's interesting. They say here, others have pointed out that Texas law caps punitive damages at twice the compensatory damage award plus $750,000. Moreover, an exemplary damage award requires a unanimous jury, and only 10 of the 12 jurors agreed on the original $4.1 million compensatory award. And if the jury's original award was for non-economic damages, i.e. to compensate for the pain and suffering, they may only get the $750,000 in this phase of the trial, which is perhaps why plaintiff's counsel tried to anchor the jury at $150 million in the first place. So it looks like, all in all, Alex Jones will end up being on the hook for about $13 million. They say Texas law prohibits telling the jury about the cap, so it may well return a massive verdict, which will then be reduced to comply with the statute, sending a signal about Jones's moral culpability, but allowing him to walk away with a slap on the wrist in light of the company's annual revenues in the neighborhood of $65 million. The interesting thing here is, this is what, let me read here. Let me read you what the lawyer said. Quote, I asked that with your verdict, you not only take Alex Jones's platform that he talks about away, I ask that you make sure that he can't rebuild the platform. That's what matters. Lawyer Wesley Ball said, that is punishment. That is deterrence. No, that's execution. Punishment is like, we're going to make you pay a lot of money and you're going to learn not to do this again. What he's talking about is completely destroying Alex Jones and everybody who works for him. So that's it. There it is. This is what everybody assumed this was all about. Alex Jones it was a default judgment. He wasn't allowed to defend himself. They claim, and may be correct, that he did not comply with discovery. Alex Jones claims he did. It's a crazy story, man. What freaks me out is that they just nuked his company. I mean, I think, in my opinion, Jones probably has a ton of cash because he's been doing this for a long time. And I'd be willing to bet he hid a lot of it. Why wouldn't he have? But it looks like they're just trying to destroy as much of this company as possible, especially with 2024 coming up and Trump probably running again.
Yeah, I feel like when you're as financially successful as Alex Jones is, you know well in advance to set up systems that will protect your money. I mean, it's not like he's just sticking, I mean, maybe he is, but he's probably not sticking the cash in the walls of his house. It's hidden under tax shelters or in trusts. I mean, not that I could fault him or anyone else for doing that. Why would you leave that much cash vulnerable?
Yep. This is why people set up LLCs for like everything. Mm-hmm. You ever notice this? For people who are renting, you may notice you're paying rent to like your address.
Yeah.
Like if you live at 123 Fake Street, you write a rent check to 123 Fake Street LLC, and then you mail it in because they want to limit the liability. You slip and fall in that house, you sue them. They only got that one house in that company.
Yep.
But the people who own that house, they probably own 50 houses, all under their own LLCs.
Yep. Or basic things. You put your money in a trust or a series of protected trusts or blind trusts, and then they're not. Even if you get this damage, you can't seize those trusts. So.
How would that work? Can you explain how a trust would work?
Look, just because I went to law school, doesn't mean I know anything.
No. He's trying to distance himself from his past.
All right, so basically, what a trust is it's almost, imagine like a corporation, but it doesn't have a job to do other than be a vehicle for money. So, like I have a trust in we have a Max Family Trust. And like most of my assets are in the Max Family Trust, and my wife and I are the executors of the trust, and our children are the beneficiaries, right? So if I were to like get drunk and drive like an idiot and do something stupid and hurt somebody and they sue me and win, they can't seize the trust, right? They can only seize my personal assets. You know, I have a few cars, whatever. We have some nonsense, but there's not a whole lot you can take. And it's a way of protecting assets from seizure is the main thing.
Is there a risk?
I mean, yeah, there's a few, but not really. Like, what's a risk? A risk is my wife and I could get divorced, and the way we have our trust set up is not like super well situated for that possibility. And then, I mean, if I live a long time, there's certain things I can't do with the assets in that trust because they're in a trust. Like I can't just I can't unilaterally decide I'm going to sell my property because my wife is an executor as well. So we both have to decide.
What if it was a single member trust or something?
Yeah,
like
well,
that?
then it depends on the trust, right?
Yeah.
So like, you can't just say, okay, my stuff's in a trust, and so no one can sue me. Like, there's certain legal structures you have to go through. Like, there's so many different trusts: blind trusts, irrevocable trusts, spendthrift trusts. It just depends on what you're doing, and certain ones are protected from certain legal liabilities. Some are not. Some are protected from almost all. It really just depends.
It seems crazy though. I mean, if that's the case, then why wouldn't Alex Jones just be like, here's $300 million and put it in the trust?
I don't. Alex seems kind of crazy to me. So maybe he has or hasn't. But most people I know who have serious money, like you get into the 8 figures and above, then you start protecting your assets and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't there wasn't there, he's been in a couple lawsuits related to Sandy Hook. And if I'm remembering correctly, at one point they were arguing that he financially benefited off of the suffering that he put like the family and parents through by promoting conspiracy theory or whatever the claim was. So part of it is like, I remember, and I hate to quote this because I don't have something in front of me to reference, but they had wanted him to say basically how much money he had made during that time period because it gained him, he was well known, but it was one of the things that really gave him a certain amount of notoriety, and that turned into financial benefit. And so therefore the argument would be, and I believe, is that the family is actually entitled to this profit because he made it unfairly off of them.
Right.
So he, in some ways, he wants to hide, I'm not saying he does, but like he would want to hide his money if that were true.
I'm not, and I don't want to imply you're a financial expert.
Right.
But if you had a trust like this, could there be like a bank account with just cash in it? You could pull money out whenever you wanted?
You can set up trusts like that, totally. Yeah. It's not that hard.